Hi everyone, I'm Dawn. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'll be breaking down the 4 new launches in River Valley and more importantly, what buyers need to understand before committing to any of these new and post launches. Okay, so for River Valley, right, we actually have Zion Grand, Promenade Peak, River Green, Robertson Opus, and this year we have very exciting the River Modern project, which has 70% of the units facing the river. So today I'll be discussing what buyers should understand before they commit into buying a piece of land in River Valley. Because at this price point, we are talking about multi-million dollar decisions. You don't want to pay based on emotion and vibes, you want to buy based on strategy. So across these launches, right, developers are mainly using 3 pricing strategies. So we have per floor jump, view premium, and unit types. Let's start with per floor jump. I'll be using River Green and Zion Grand as examples. Before that, let me just break down the different projects, give you a brief recap on each of these projects. So River Green is developed by Wing Tai. It's a 1 residential block at 36 stories high. It's within 1 kilometer to River Valley Primary School and it's fully sheltered access and direct connection to Great World MRT as well as Great World Shopping Mall. As of today, River Green is actually 92% sold. So what made River Green so popular, right, is its entry price. 3 bedrooms started from about 2.1 million, whereas 4 bedrooms started from about 2.7 million. The compact but efficient layouts, right, actually allowed families to enter into River Valley at a lower price point. Now compare that to Zion Grand by CDL and Mitsui Fudosan. It has 2 residential towers standing at 62 stories high and a 1 tower of 36-story service apartment. It's an integrated mixed-use development with direct access to Havelock MRT station. It's also 1 kilometer to River Valley Primary School, as well as 1 MRT stop to Great World City and Great World Shopping Mall. Not only that, right, it actually has supermarkets, retail shops, and even a early childhood development center within the project itself. The unique selling point for Zion Grand is definitely that it's one of the tallest buildings in River Valley apart from Promenade Peak. So in this case, it means that the unblocked view will grant you a higher sense of prestige and exclusivity. Now here's where it gets interesting. At Zion Grand, comparing the same stack of Stack 10, the 2-bedroom plus study has the lowest PSF starting at 2687, whereas the highest PSF at 3259 on level 62. The per floor jump from level 2 to level 62 in this case is about 21%, but across each floor, right, it's about 0.35%. On the other hand, River Green, it has a lowest PSF starting from at 2939 on level 2 and on level 34, the highest PSF at 3591. But because it's spread across only 33 stories, this works out to about 0.67 per floor jump, and this is almost double that of the per floor jump from Zion Grand. So even though for both projects, right, the total top to bottom difference looks very similar at 21 and 22%, the intensity per floor, right, is actually very different. River Green, because it has 33 stories only, whereas for Zion Grand it's 61 stories difference. River Green has fewer floors to spread pricing across, so each level actually carries a heavier increment. Whereas for Zion Grand, because there is more levels for the developers to play with, the increment per level is actually more gentle and more gradual. That's why Zion Grand can afford a lower starting PSF, while River Green has to start a bit higher. Now let's move on to the premium on views. Developers can usually load anywhere from 3% up to 15% or even higher, purely based on facing alone. Taking Lentor Modern as an example, looking at the 3-bedroom, same floor, same unit type, almost identical in size, but the landed facing one actually commanded a 3% premium simply because it's facing the landed area. And similarly, let's take a look at the 2-bedroom. For 2 bedrooms again, same floor, same unit size, same unit type, we see that there is a 6.5% premium commanded just for the unit that has the landed view facing. So this is usually how developers load premiums onto units with the best facing. And we can apply this same principle to across the board, whether it's unblocked versus blocked, West Sun versus non-West Sun, and of course, landed facing versus internal facing. Now, depending on whether you are buying for your own stay or investment, understanding this strategy becomes very important because you need to ask yourself, is the premium view worth paying for? Or would that budget be better allocated elsewhere, for example, such as getting a bigger unit size? So before we move on to River Modern, I would like to touch on the loading on unit types first. So typically we notice that the bigger the unit, the higher the PSF. But this is actually not random, it's usually very deliberate. Bringing in River Modern, okay, let me just break down this project for you. Developed by Guoco Land, 70% of the units are river facing, and some of them even get the full panoramic view of the Singapore River. It's a mixed-use development with first story being commercial and the upper floors being the residential. It is situated right next to Great World MRT station, which means you are also right next to Great World City. Of course, it's within 1 kilometer to River Valley Primary School. For this development, right, what's interesting is that you see that there is no one bedroom. The starting unit mix is from 2 bedroom all the way up to the 4 bedroom. So as mentioned previously, the unique selling point for River Modern is definitely that 70% of the units are river facing. So naturally, the river view becomes this project's key selling point. Then when we take a look at the indicative price list, one thing that stands out immediately is that the PSF for the 4-bedroom unit is significantly higher than that of the 2-bedroom units. So what does this tell us? The 2 and 3 bedroom, right, if we notice here, it actually makes up about 85% of the whole development, whereas for the 4-bedroom, it makes up only about 15%. This tells us that the 4-bedroom unit is actually more scarce and rarer, and on top of that, all the 4-bedroom units are river-facing. So instead of spreading the Riverview premium across the entire project, the developer concentrates the premium onto the rarest unit, which in this case will be the 4-bedroom, that only takes up about 15%. At the same time, the smaller units still need to remain attractive and sellable since they make up about 85%, a big bulk of the entire development. They drive the overall sales volume. And of course, in this case, by loading more premium onto the bigger, rarer units, developer can afford to keep the smaller units at more competitively priced, such as the 2877. So when you see a stark PSF gap between 2 and 4 bedroom units, when the indicative price comes out, right, it's not that, developers made a mistake, there's a misprice, or that one is overpriced than the other. It's just that developer is intentionally concentrating the premium onto the most limited and more desirable unit types. Now let's take this one step further. I would like to bring in Promenade Peak, okay, because I believe Promenade Peak uses the same mixed strategy of combining unit type loading and premium height loading. At Promenade Peak, right, standing at 63-story, of course, it shares the same unique selling point as Zion Grand, being that it has unblocked views and the sense of exclusivity that comes with it. But one interesting thing for Promenade Peak, right, is that, take a look here, the 3-bedroom to 5-bedroom premium only starts from level 44 onwards. Means structurally, right, these larger units are already positioned in the premium zone of the building. You don't even have the option of buying a large unit at a lower level. So from the moment when you choose to invest in a certain unit type, you're automatically paying for higher elevation, better skyline, and the greater exclusivity that comes with it. Let me just show you this. Within the same stack, if you compare level 44 and level 62, there's actually a difference about $234 PSF. In absolute terms, right, this translates to about $332,000 just for a better or higher floor level and a slightly more unblocked view. In this case, the real question for buyers is, from an investment standpoint, will the market reward you with that full $332,000 premium in future? Or in this case, is there maybe a sweet spot where you are already enjoying the unblocked view, the same layout, same size, without having to overpay for incremental height that may not translate into proportional resale gain in future? So now this is where strategic selection comes in, because once you understand where the premium is being loaded, whether on height, scarcity, or view, you can then decide whether you want to pay for it or avoid it completely. Now let's use Zion Grand to show how developers actually applied the same mixed-use strategy as Promenade Peak. I'm sharing this because I believe for River Modern by Guoco Land, right, it will also be a similar use of mixed-use strategy, which I will bring in a bit. So let's take a look at Zion Grand first. At the same level, level 58, we see that there is a mix of different unit types, and the PSF actually varies quite significantly across these unit types, even though they are on the exact same level. On level 58, right, we see that for 2-bed 1-bath, the per square foot is at 3190, whereas for 2-bed with study, the per square foot is at 3253, 3-bedroom compact is at 3378, 3-bedroom premium with study at 3374, and finally for the 4-bedroom with study at 3508. So what does this tell us? The view from level 58 is broadly similar across these units. They are in the same block, same height, same exposure. And since Zion Grand is one of the tallest development within River Valley, at level 58, even though it might not be the same stack, I believe the view will still be generally unblocked, which means the price difference here is not just based on height anymore, it's the unit type positioning. Developer is clearly loading premium onto larger, more premium unit layouts, even though they share the same floor as other unit types that are smaller. So in this case, two strategies are layered together. First, the premium view of the project itself being at one of the tallest development in the area. Secondly, additional loading based on unit type and perceived exclusivity. Now as a buyer, this is where you need to think strategically. If all these units share the same high floor and unblocked view, the question here becomes, do we really need to pay $3,508 per square foot for a 4-bedroom? Or is there a sweet spot where we can still get a sizable unit, enjoy the same premium skyline view, but avoid paying the steepest PSF loading? For me personally, I would probably be looking at the 3-bedroom compact or the 3-bedroom premium with study. But that's up to personal preference, yeah? Because ultimately, I'm still buying into the unique selling point of the project, which is the unblocked view, but I'm not paying the absolute highest premium tier. Back to River Modern. We know that 70% of the units are river facing and 30% of them are not. So naturally, the question here is, how then will the developer load the premium? Because they cannot just load everything on the river view facing when 70% of the units are already river facing. Because if 70% of the units are already river facing, then it's not as exclusive anymore, and developers are not able to price everything top tier just for the premium facing units. Now that we know 2-bedroom starting PSF is at 2,877 for the 2-bedroom non-river facing units, assuming the highest PSF for this entire project can go up to about 3,008, right, for the 4 bedrooms. In this case, it's impossible for all the river facing units to be priced at 3,008 because there has to be a range in this case, which obviously will be within this 70%. Personally, if I will look at it strategically, I will focus within this 70% river facing units, but I would aim to achieve a mid-range PSF that guarantees me a river facing, aim for the mid-range pricing rather than the most premium stacks. The sweet spot here will be getting a 3-bedroom, for instance, at a 3,002 to 3,003 PSF. With that, I've come to the end of my takeaway lessons for River Valley launches. If you are interested in buying into River Valley today and you found my analysis of developers' pricing strategy useful, feel free to contact me via WhatsApp, or you can reach out to me at Open Doors with Dawn on YouTube or Instagram. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!